Welcome to Yashar Radio, where we share authentic faith and deep spiritual insights.
Hello, family.
So, I want you to imagine something for a second. Imagine you are interviewing your next date exactly like you'd interview a candidate for a corporate job.
Oh, man, that sounds stressful.
Right. Like, you're sitting across the table, you're sipping a latte, but mentally, you are just running a full background check on their resume.
Totally, just checking all the boxes.
Exactly. You're assessing their qualifications, their 5-year plan. And secretly, deep down, you're asking yourself, will this person serve my life goals?
Wow. Yeah, that is, it's a harsh way to look at it, but it's pretty accurate for how a lot of us operate today.
It really is. And so today, we are going to dismantle that exhausting myth. We're talking about the myth of the soulmate. We are taking a deep dive into this truly paradigm-shifting framework from a book called The Meaning of Marriage, which was written by Timothy Keller and his wife, Kathy Keller.
Yeah, and I just want to say, if you are navigating life right now, like if you're trying to build a demanding career, or maybe you're just burning out on the dating apps, or even if you're married and just trying to figure out how to love your spouse on a really exhausting weekday, this conversation is absolutely for you.
Oh, 100%.
And, to give you a little context on why this material feels so grounded, we really should talk about who Tim Keller was. So back in 1989, he planted Redeemer Presbyterian Church right in the heart of Manhattan.
Right, Manhattan.
Yeah. And, think about Manhattan. It is arguably the most fast-paced, career-obsessed, driven city in the world.
Totally. So, he wasn't speaking to people living in this quiet, isolated, rural bubble. He was speaking directly to young adults walking out of corporate high-rises,
Exactly.
He was dealing with professionals who were constantly swimming in this culture of consumerism, high expectations, and, honestly, total burnout.
Yeah, complete exhaustion.
So our mission today is to look at this incredibly refreshing biblical vision of marriage that he presents. And we want to contrast that with the exhausting cultural view that you and I are just so used to. We really want to explore how this impacts your daily grind, your spiritual growth, and even how you experience singleness.
It's a completely liberating way to look at relationships. But, to get to that freedom, we kind of have to start by taking a hard look at this massive weight that modern society places on your shoulders.
Yeah, the heavy stuff first.
Right. So Keller argues that our culture has essentially turned romantic relationships into, a tool for self-realization. Like we are taught from a very young age that the ultimate goal of life is to find your soulmate.
Ugh, the soulmate myth. We see it literally everywhere, right? In every movie, every pop song.
Oh, everywhere.
And we end up treating dating exactly like a marketplace. Like if you're on the apps right now, swiping left and right, it is so easy to fall into this trap.
It's designed that way, yeah.
It is. You built this mental checklist and you expect to find this mythical, flawless person who's just going to provide instant fulfillment.
Right. Instant.
Yeah, you want them to give you social status, emotional security, perfect compatibility, and all of this without asking you to change a single difficult thing about your own character.
Exactly. And Keller references this fascinating concept from a cultural thinker named Ernest Becker. Becker called this phenomenon romance as religion.
Oh, wow. Romance as religion.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
He pointed out that as modern society gradually stopped looking to God for redemption, for meaning, and for identity, we didn't just stop worshiping. Because, human beings are hardwired to worship.
Right, we have to worship something.
Exactly. So we just replaced God with romance.
Okay, wait, let me push back on that just a little bit.
Sure, go for it.
Because romance as religion sounds incredibly intense. Are we literally worshiping our partners? That feels like a bit of a stretch.
I hear you.
Most of us just want to be happy, right? We just want to share our lives with someone great. So how does wanting a good partner equate to treating romance like a religion?
No, it's a great question. And it really comes down to what you are expecting that person to do for your soul. When society loses a transcendent God, we still have this gaping hole inside us that needs to know our lives matter.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, we need to feel justified in our existence. So we elevate our romantic partner to a divine ideal. We are basically looking at a flawed, finite, exhausted human being and saying, redeem me, make my life meaningful, fix my deep existential loneliness.
Oh, wow. Put like that, it makes total sense. But man, that is a crushingly heavy burden to put on a normal person.
It's an impossible burden. No human being makes a good God.
Yeah.
They will inevitably buckle under the weight of that expectation.
Of course they will.
And when they do, when they inevitably disappoint you, The modern consumer mindset immediately says, oh, I must have found the wrong person. This isn't my soulmate. Time to go back to the marketplace.
Which is exactly why I love the counter-argument that the book offers. Because Keller quotes an ethics professor named Stanley Hauerwas, who says that we always marry the wrong person.
I love that. Such a brilliant countercultural quote.
It really is. It completely shatters the soulmate myth. Because Hauerwas explains that marriage is such an enormous life-altering event that it changes you profoundly. You are simply not the same person after you enter it.
Yeah, you're constantly growing.
Right. Plus, living in close proximity with someone exposes all your hidden flaws. So the primary task of a relationship isn't searching the globe for this flawless match. The real work is learning how to love and care for the stranger you find yourself married to.
And just think about the anxiety that lifts off your shoulders when you realize that.
Oh, it's huge.
If you don't have to carry the pressure of finding the mythical perfect match, you can actually get to the beautiful, messy work of loving the real imperfect person sitting right in front of you. But to do that, you have to shift your foundation, because consumerism is just way too weak to sustain a lifelong relationship. So Keller says the biblical alternative is covenant.
Okay, let's unpack that term a bit, because I hear the word covenant, and honestly, I immediately think of a legally binding contract like a mortgage.
Right.
Like, if I pay the bank, I get to keep the house. If you do your part, I do mine. And if you stop, I stop. But Keller is arguing that a covenant is actually the exact opposite of that, right?
Spot on. Yeah, in our modern corporate world, we love contracts. Because a contract is entirely designed to protect my individual rights.
It's all about me.
Exactly. But a covenant, which is the biblical model instituted by God, is a mutually binding promise of future love.
Yeah.
It's not about protecting my rights. It's about voluntarily giving myself to you.
That is so countercultural.
It really is. When you say your wedding vows, you're not just declaring how much affection you feel for this person right now, in this warm, fuzzy moment with all your friends watching.
Right, the easy part.
Yeah, the easy part. You are making a promise about your future actions. You are saying, I will love you even when I absolutely do not feel like it, even when things get incredibly hard.
Wow, that shifts the entire purpose of the relationship. It's no longer just this vehicle to keep me happy.
Exactly.
And Keller introduces this core thesis that I think is just a game changer for anyone listening. He says, marriage is a primary vehicle God uses to sanctify us. Meaning God uses it to grow our character and make us holy.
Yeah.
And the mindset shift Keller suggests is so challenging. He says you need to wake up and say, I'm going to treat my own self-centeredness as the main problem in the marriage.
I mean, just let that sink in for a second.
Yeah.
I'm going to treat my self-centeredness as the main problem.
It hurts a little bit, honestly.
It stings. Not my spouse's flaws, not their annoying habits, my own selfishness. But if both people in a relationship actually take that stance, you have the recipe for deep spiritual friendship.
I love that.
And Keller brings in this wonderful concept from C.S. Lewis about the secret thread that binds true friends together. For believers, that secret thread is a shared rebirth. It's a shared desire to be transformed by Christ.
Right.
You look at each other and say, I see what God is doing in you,
Yeah.
and I want to help you get there.
I love that poetic vision. It sounds so beautiful. But I need to ask you about the reality of lived experience.
Okay, let's hear it.
Let's talk about a random tired Tuesday.
Oh, the tired Tuesday.
Yes. Let's say you're a young professional. It's 6 p.m. Your boss sent a passive-aggressive email at 4:55. You commuted home in the pouring rain. You walk through the front door. Your emotional tank is below zero. And you just want to be catered to.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Right. So how do you actually practice treating your selfishness as the main problem in that exact moment? Like, how do you stop that stress response in its tracks?
Man, that is the ultimate test, isn't it? Because if this theology doesn't work on a tired Tuesday, it doesn't work at all. And the answer really comes down to the psychological and spiritual mechanism of grace. Like, where are you drawing your strength from? If you walk in that door relying entirely on your own emotional reserves, you're going to snap.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you feel you are owed comfort. And when you feel owed, you build resentment.
Exactly. You start keeping score like, I worked harder today, so you should be doing the dishes.
Precisely. But if your heart is deeply anchored in the gospel, like if you actively remember how much unearned grace and patience Jesus has shown you when you were completely unlovable and had nothing to offer him, it biologically and emotionally diffuses that resentment.
Wow.
It just melts your entitlement. You realize Jesus served me at my absolute worst. And remembering that profound grace gives you this supernatural ability to look at your spouse or your roommate and say, I am totally depleted, but because Christ fills me, I can take 5 minutes to ask about your day. I can help with the dishes.
That is so powerful.
Yeah, it's not pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, you know? It's letting Christ's love overflow when your own cup is literally empty.
That makes so much sense. It's relying on his strength, not ours, to break that whole cycle of consumerism.
Exactly.
But, as we talk about laying down our rights and this beautiful ideal of covenant, I think it's really important that we embrace the messiness here, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Because reading through the reviews and the pushback from people who actually read Keller's book, it's clear that this advice isn't perfectly easy to swallow for everyone, in every situation.
No, it's not. And we have to look at those critiques honestly. When you're dealing with human hearts, things are incredibly complex.
Totally.
For instance, there was a reader named Megan who brought up a very poignant critique about how Keller handles past emotional wounds.
Right. Because Keller suggests that our past emotional wounds often make us self-absorbed, and he basically says we need to stop making excuses for our selfishness in the present. And Megan felt this came across as quite insensitive. It almost feels like he's saying, just get over it. And that's tough because if someone is trying to heal from true verbal or emotional abuse, it's not just normal selfishness they're dealing with. Like, trauma literally changes your brain.
Yeah, I think her pushback is completely valid. We have to balance the biblical call to lay down our selfishness with the very real need for profound healing, boundaries, and honestly, professional support when there's deep trauma.
Exactly.
You can't just slap a theological Band-Aid on a gaping psychological wound.
No, you really can't. And speaking of complex topics, there was also quite a bit of debate around the chapter on gender roles, which was actually written by Timothy Keller.
Yes. Let's get into that. So Kathy roots her understanding of gender roles in the concept of the Trinity. She draws a comparison between Jesus' sacrificial submission to God the Father and the dynamics between a husband and wife.
Right. But reviewers like Allie and Carly pointed out they really struggled with the complementarian slant of the book. And for anyone listening who isn't familiar with that term, it's basically this theological framework that men and women have uniquely different complementary roles and authority in marriage rather than being strictly interchangeable.
Right. And depending on your church background, that can be a very loaded concept.
Oh, definitely.
But what's fascinating is that even the reviewers who disagreed with that specific complementarian theology, they actually appreciated where the Kellers ultimately landed practically.
Exactly. Because Kathy concludes that both men and women are called to play what she calls the Jesus role in the marriage.
Yeah, I love that phrase.
Meaning both are called to self-effacing sacrificial service. Whether you use the word authority or submission, if both people are imitating Jesus washing his disciples' feet, the lived reality is going to look like a beautiful mutual partnership of serving one another.
Right. The labels matter way less than the posture of the heart.
Totally.
And that posture of sacrificial friendship leads right into the final major area of pushback we noticed, which was around the topic of singleness.
Ah, yes.
Now, Keller makes a really strong, encouraging theological point here. He says that singleness is not a secondary or inferior status. In fact, he highlights that it offers a unique freedom for ministry and focus that married people simply don't have.
He does, but his practical advice for singles was essentially to rely heavily on deep spiritual friendships with the opposite sex within their local church.
Right.
And a lot of single readers raised their hands and said, okay, that sounds great in theory, but that does not match the reality of my local congregation.
Yeah, it's tough.
One reviewer living right in the Bible Belt pointed out that mature, available, cross-gender friendships just aren't easy to find in many churches where demographics can be really skewed.
It's very true.
Which makes me wonder, does Keller, having been married to Kathy since they were practically in college, maybe have a bit of a blind spot here?
I think it's very fair to say yes. I mean, when you transition from college directly into a marriage, you entirely miss the distinct modern challenges of navigating your 20s and 30s as a single professional.
Oh, totally.
You miss the exhaustion of the dating apps, the hyper-transient nature of modern cities, and, the particular loneliness that can settle in when everyone around you in the pews is pairing off.
Yeah, that's a very real feeling.
So his theological framework that singleness is a gift is incredibly sound, but the boots-on-the-ground application of just find great friends at church might miss the mark for the very real isolation a single person is facing today.
And I think acknowledging that isolation is key, because despite the blind spots, the overarching thread that connects all of these topics, whether you're single, dating, or married, is this profound, God-given human need for intimacy.
Yes.
This deep, universal ache we all have to be fully known.
That is the core of everything we're talking about today. If you go all the way back to the creation story in Genesis, Keller points out this stunning foundational detail.
Oh, I love this part.
God creates the heavens, the earth, the animals, and after every single step, he declares that it is good. But the very first time God looks at his perfect, sinless creation and says, it is not good, is when Adam is alone.
Because we were built to reflect a relational God. We were literally designed for community and connection.
Precisely. And in the context of marriage, that emotional connection reaches a unique physical depth. There is a deeply practical chapter on physical intimacy, and there was a reader from Sichuan who captured the essence of it so beautifully.
Oh, yes, I remember that review.
They noted that in our modern, consumer-driven culture, physical intimacy is almost always treated as a performance,
Right.
like a transaction. But within the biblical framework of a covenant, sex is actually a sacrament.
I love how they described it as a safe zone, because
Yeah.
a sacrament is a visible sign of an inward reality.
Okay.
In marriage, it becomes this incredibly vulnerable space where two people reaffirm their permanent belonging to one another. It's not about keeping score. It's a physical expression of that covenant promise we talked about earlier. I am yours and you are mine permanently, flaws and all.
It is the ultimate human expression of being fully known, which brings us to what is arguably the most powerful quote in the entire book.
Oh, I know which one you're going to say.
It was highlighted by a reviewer named Giselle, and it just perfectly summarizes the ache of the human heart and the beauty of God's design. Keller writes, "To be loved but not known is comforting but superficial. To be known and not loved is our greatest fear, but to be fully known and truly loved is, well, a lot like being loved by God."
Oh, I just get chills every time I hear that.
Yeah,
To be fully known and truly loved. Think about that.
that's incredible.
That is exactly what you are searching for, isn't it? Like whether you are swiping through your phone on the subway or trying to prove your worth, climbing the corporate ladder, or just sitting across the table on a first date, deep down, you are looking for the safety of being completely exposed, bringing all your baggage into the light, and still being fiercely, permanently loved.
And the most beautiful truth of the gospel, the absolute bedrock of all of this, is that you already have that in Christ.
Yes, you do.
He knows every hidden flaw. He knows every selfish thought you had this morning. He knows every failure. And he loves you to the point of the cross.
Amen.
When that reality truly takes root in your heart, it changes everything. It changes how you walk into your office, how you listen to your friends, and how you forgive your spouse.
It changes the entire trajectory of your life. So as we wrap up our time together, we want to leave you with a challenge for this week.
Yeah, a practical challenge.
No matter what your relationship status is right now, whether you are single, actively dating, or you've been married for 30 years, we want you to consciously view your relationships this week through the lens of covenant rather than consumerism.
What would actually happen tomorrow morning at work, in your friendships, or around your dinner table if you stopped asking, what am I getting out of this interaction? And started asking, how can I sacrificially serve this person exactly like Jesus serves me?
Wow.
I guarantee you, if you try that, it will bring a level of peace, freedom, and deep joy that consumerism could never, ever offer.
Thanks for listening. We are Yashar Radio. If you drew strength from our sharing today, remember to share it and build others up. See you next time.